3.
And we'll have go.
Good morning, people. Well, good morning from my end of the world, anyway.
Morning, Jack.
Greetings, boob tube.
Hello, YouTube. Welcome to a surprise show from the Orange.
And it is, thankfully, this one comes with lube.
Ladies and gentlemen, with us today are the ever-exalted bot from the land of Zion, Red Robot.
Hey, that's Xeon. Seek Xeon, or I'll drop a colony on you. It's an anime joke for those of you who think I'm a Jew.
And from the place with the mace and a head of gold, Modwayne. I got no fucking context on him.
Good.
As always, I am your orange-loving kobold host, the Orange. Today we're going to be talking about Modwayne's topic, Red's topic, and finishing off with the orange citrus punch of the evening.
Do I want to know what the orange citrus punch of the evening is?
You'll see.
Oh, God.
Modwayne, your point, go.
Well, I was considering this. I mean, we talk about the refugee status in the world, and when we talk about refugees, we always talk about people from Syria. We never, ever talk about people from the Ukraine, which is weird considering that they're in a civil war as well, which is nearly as devastating as the one in Syria, but it does seem to get a lot less media coverage, and I am curious as to why.
Why, the media coverage?
Well, the media coverage, the coverage by anyone actually. I mean, most people don't even know that this is going on. They've got roughly the same amount of displaced people, but the European Communion is spending 6 billion on helping the refugees in Syria and less than 300 million to help the refugees in Ukraine. Which seems to be somewhat of a double standard to me.
And it definitely is. I think you're completely right on that, because it doesn't make any goddamn sense. From a humanitarian standpoint, it makes no goddamn sense. From an ideological point of view, I think it makes a whole lot of sense, in a bad way. Yeah.
Well, I'm curious as to why, though.
Well, my perception of it is that they see an ideological value in people from Syria, because they are inherently enemies of the West, and thereby, because there's a significant segment of the basically intellectual heavyweights in academia and politics who can't help themselves and think that anyone that is the enemy of the West must be a good guy because the West is evil. It's this very political angle of the Western civilization is evil.
My enemy is my friend.
Yeah, and that's a hideously huge mistake to make. Because the enemy of your enemy is also quite possibly your enemy, particularly when you are the West.
Well, I mean, this is specifically the case if you look at the mess we're in Syria. I mean, we are de facto in a third world war because of Syria.
That's a distinct possibility.
Well, actually, no. Considering what is a world war, it's when multiple countries around the world are part of that war, and currently we have multiple countries from Europe who are part of the war in Syria. America is part of the war in Syria. Russia is part of the war in Syria. Pretty soon China will follow. De facto, it's a third world war.
Yeah.
I can understand the heaviness of the situation, though it's nowhere near as big as the first two world wars, luckily. But yeah, all the attention goes to Syria. And what has Syria ever done to the world? I mean, before it all started, it was well, it was a dictatorship, but it wasn't as bad as, for example, I would say Egypt was. But then again, that might just be my point of view. People might not agree with me on that. I don't understand this. I seriously am flabbergasted why. And the worst part is that in Europe, Angela Merkel basically said, you know what, bring forth your refugees, which opened the floodgates for more refugees from the Middle East and Northern Africa, amongst which are plenty non-Syrians, funny enough, which then starts creating a lot of bullshit in Europe. But still, we totally ignore the situation in Ukraine.
Yeah, well, I think it's because the situation in Syria is politically useful, and I think to some extent they honestly believe that that's the proper thing to do, even if it is, I think there's a demographic suicide in importing people. I mean that topic's been gone over before, but I think it's because they honestly think that this will somehow be helpful, or just it has an ideological flavor they like. I wish I understood it, but I still can't quite wrap my head around it. Maybe I just don't understand enough of European politics. But it seems in this deep, this deep-rooted self-hatred of their own values and country, and everything that forms what makes up the Western world is somehow negative. And it's insanity. But you watch them do it as though it were the most logical thing ever, the most humane thing ever, which is just bonkers. Absolutely.
Could we be in cultural shock? So burnt out from seeing either side that we just don't care anymore.
We still seem to care a lot about Syria.
And there's I don't. Is it some sort of internal guilt for however Syria ended up, which is not the fault of the West in any way that I can think of? I mean, I'm sure someone could come up with something, but of course, there's always somebody who's going, well, somehow this is going to be the West's fault. Just somebody phone Noam Chomsky, he'll figure out a way that it's our fault. I guarantee you.
Yeah.
Who hasn't got a...
But funny enough, the situation in Ukraine is our fault. I mean, Russia started influencing the Ukraine more because the Ukraine was looking for more closeness to Europe, which is weird considering it's right on the border. But it was focusing its economic system more on the European economic system than on the Russian economic system. And therefore, Russia incited the civil war.
Yeah, and that's... I hate to say it, that seems perfectly logical to me, and that's kind of what that's something that, because in that sort of, Russia has long dreamed of, and for a while had, an intense influence over that part of the world, and losing it is killing them. It's just absolutely tearing their balls out.
Mm-hmm.
And I begin to wonder that they might do anything to get it back. And apparently they are. And people sympathetic to the what they believe is the Russian way of doing things, because as you mentioned earlier, communism is not necessarily Marxism, yes, but there's this perception that it's a brother thought process. This sort of weird form of control socialism is obviously the right thing to do, so we should help them. Or, I don't know. It doesn't make any goddamn sense to someone who isn't just completely up their own ass, but, I'm sure someone thinks I am up my own ass, but that's beside the point.
Well, it doesn't make any sense to me either. And even from a communistic standpoint, I don't understand it. I mean, yes, okay, we let Russia... one moment, the little one is wailing all of a sudden.
Sorry.
Are you going to be quiet, little one? He's going to be quiet again. No, it's really weird considering that the whole Russian situation in Ukraine, Russia is washing its hands in innocence, saying like, this is a revolt against us. This is a Russian people in Ukraine are revolting against the Ukrainian government because they already live there, and this is just a civil war. It's not because of us, but we are linked to it, and we're just ignoring anything that goes on because it doesn't fit with our narrative, it seems.
I guess. I mean, that's the only thing I can think of is that it's just that it's so. It. Yeah, that's the only thing I can think of is that it fits them in the right way that they'll put up with it. It doesn't make any
Seems
sense.
that we've come to a conclusion. So, Modwayne, what's the conclusion to your question?
Unfortunately, the only conclusion I can come up with is that people don't care because it doesn't suit the narrative.
There you go.
The politics and narrative are more important than any sense of logic and a sort of self-destructive guilt. This is something I wanted to throw out there. I thought about doing a video about it, but here's a tasty thought for you. Try this one on for size. This one made my brain hurt when it popped in my head. So I have this feeling it comes from something I read, but I can't figure out what it is. So here's a thought for you. So we have two. At the end of World War II, we had two countries that faced a similar problem. Japan and Germany essentially were, because after the butt fucking that Italy got, and Russia is its own animal, they didn't get quite blamed for it. But Germany and Japan got blamed for World War II primarily. They got the guilt baggage. They had two completely different responses to this, which is interesting. Now, a lot of people have given Japan shit, and maybe justifiably so, for basically taking the baggage and burying it in the backyard and pretty much pretending it didn't happen. Whereas Germany took that guilt on board, probably because the differences in their occupation, and I mean that literally in how they were occupied. And as a result, now in Germany, I get the impression, again, I've never lived there in the same way that I've never lived in Japan, so this is a very distant outsider's view, that Germany may be doing some of the things they do. Merkel's a good example of someone who's so guilt-ridden that nothing that would defend the German way of life and people can possibly be right because they're so guilt-ridden. Whereas Japan, on the other hand, gives no fucks. To the point that they're still pretty racist to Koreans and anyone of Korean descent.
Could be true.
Now, here's the part.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was going to say, here's the part that blew my mind. Which of those two approaches? Now, I know one of the two approaches seems more morally correct, but in the long-term effect to the people who live there now in those countries who had nothing to do with the crimes of those countries, the innocent people who live there now who are unless we're going to go with the sins of the fathers, are guilt-free. Which of the two of them are getting the more morally correct deal?
Well, Japan seems to be quite clearly out of the situation where maybe the guilt of the past is swaying Germans into a certain action. Well, not Germans, but German government. So I would say that Germany then didn't get the best deal out of that one.
No, which makes me with this weird argument where perhaps burying the guilt in the backyard was the correct approach in the moral long term, even if it is extremely distasteful in the moral short term.
I understand what you mean, but I think there's something else at play as well. I mean, there is no such thing as blaming Orientals. There is this thing called blaming the white guy.
Yes, that's true.
And I would argue that among the whitest of guys are the Germans.
True, because they're also the stock villains of the white guy. I mean, they're the perennial. The skinhead neo-Nazi is the perennial evil white guy in modern society, and thereby a certain German flavor to it kind of adds to that. For which I now feel very, very sorry for the modern German people because they had shit all to do with that. That's not their fault. They weren't even a naughty twinkle in their father's eye when all this shit went down. You know, it's kind of like blaming me for the fact that Oklahoma's full of white people. Hey, I was just born there. You know, I don't know what the hell.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Full of red people.
It's even worse. I mean, if you look at Germany, yes, Hitler was an arsehole. Yes, the SS was bad. But if you look at the average German person, they were just as much a victim of the whole situation as the rest of Europe was and the rest of the world was.
Yeah,
so
it's kind of like growing up in an abusive household. There's a parallel there because the Japanese people were in a similar boat because the shit that they got put through was very similar in a weird way.
Yeah, it's not as if the average Japanese guy could say, you know what, this war, nah, I'm not going to do it.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, if I was gonna live in an Axis power during World War II, you know, if you had to tell me, okay, pick an Axis country to live in during World War II, I'd be like, ship me to Italy. You know, Italy was at least, you know, particularly if you were Jewish, up until the Germans took over, you know, it wasn't that bad because Mussolini wasn't necessarily anti-Jewish.
You know, but that's the whole thing, though. I mean, Mussolini's movement basically was the birthplace of Adolf Hitler's movement, but Hitler took it a few steps further.
Yeah, he was you know he was a much more nationalist you know he was very much more of a nationalist you know socialist than Mussolini was more of a socialist nationalist. Because I mean Mussolini started out as a socialist and eventually became disenchanted with international socialism to the point where, you know, fascism was a term he coined for it because, you know, the national level was the important thing, whereas, you know, further to the left were the international socialists and commies. You know, I'm a redneck, but I know a little bit of World War II history.
Well, it did shape our world as much as we know it.
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, but yeah, this nasty thought just worms in my head that perhaps Japan's approach was not the most morally ideal, but in the long run, for the people who had to live with the aftermath, was the better approach. You know, different approach to shame, I suppose. Because that's something else somebody has pointed out more than once in cultural analyses of the difference between. And the weirdest place I had seen this was an analysis of the anime Cowboy Bebop and the way the characters behave. From a Western point of view, almost all of them come off as intensely selfish. But from an Eastern point of view, the guilt and the way they deal with guilt and the weight of those things was very very different. So it almost completely flips the color and tone of the story. Which is really interesting because both interpretations could be perfectly valid. And then I think about the way that, you know, Eastern and Western cultures differ, even amongst themselves, but vastly differ in the way they process what we would call guilt or shame in very, very different ways. And it's possible that the way these two countries resulted was an inevitable part of the culture that it happened in, you know.
Yeah, no, it actually does make a lot of sense. And I do believe that, other than just the German thing, I do believe that in the West we have a huge problem with our self-image, which also isn't helping, I guess.
No, there's an intense sense of an undercurrent of self-loathing.
Fuck's this shit?
Intellectual discourse, Runefoot. It happens. Seriously.
Oh. Smart people?
Yeah.
Yeah, and me.
And me.
Oh.
I don't know who the smart person is here.
Yeah, none of us are that smart.
So are we moving on topic now?
Yeah, probably so. What else we got?
Red, it's your turn for topic.
Oh, I thought it just did. Because I kind of laid out that it was related, but you know.
Yeah, we flowed over from one topic to the next.
1 to 2. We need a complete switch around.
Probably so. Rudefoot, what do you got?
I don't even know what the fuck's going on. I just saw a link.
We need a topic of intellectual discussion.
Islam?
Ugh.
Gesundheit.
Who wants to start?
Well,
Anybody?
Islam.
Let's talk about Islam. I mean, Islam is a very broad subject.
Well, yeah, we can just start with Islam and pick a subject from there, and do what to do.
well,
But what part of Islam? I mean, are we going to say about the beauty of Islam, or are we going to talk about the double standards in Islam, or are we going to talk?
Maybe we could talk about the beauty of Islam. I guess we don't. No one ever talks about that.
Well, I think part of it, what fascinates me is the way that Islam reinvented itself at some point. Say about, I mean, a lot of people think of it, the reinvention. We'll talk about going from peaceful to hostile, and I like to think of more the interesting reinvention was somewhere about 300 years on, when you stopped seeing the face of Muhammad, when they started outlawing that, because that was not always the case, and the artistic expression effects that might have. If we're gonna talk about the beauty of Islam, is the artistic expression, the effect it had on artistic expression. When you stopped having pictures of Islam, because I mean you used to have up until that I'd say the Middle East and almost all religious cultures up to a certain point. I mean there was never Judeo-Christian tradition doesn't usually do a picture of God, but aside from that, everybody else is fair game. You have iconography of virtually everybody. Heck, you've got the table with all the apostles, and then Big J right in the middle.
Idolatry.
But Muhammad, on the other
Idolatry.
hand, for I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's the first 300 years. There's plenty of pictures of him, and then suddenly, for reasons that I don't understand, not just a religious reason, but they just flip that and just go no more images of him. And I always wondered why.
Maybe they want to follow the teachings better.
No, it happened roughly at the same time when suddenly numbers were haram, mathematicians were haram, and astrology was haram,
Sounds about right.
which was something that Arabic people used to excel at. So it's roughly at the same time that they said a lot of stuff suddenly was haram, it was not allowed anymore. I'm not really sure why, to be honest.
Because there was a point at which
lead to education.
And education's bad for such religions.
Well, I mean, it survived for 300 years with a reasonably good education, and other religions. I mean, Jews are hideously well educated by Middle Eastern standards, and they do really really well.
They're reasonably educated by everyone's standards.
Exactly, that's what I mean. There's at some point did something go wrong? I mean, because with Christianity, at some point they narrowed down the texts to the basic what's in the Bible now, which is understandable. But that wasn't the same thing as just a complete flip on their I mean, every religion I suppose has had its moment, but this weird lack of this. It strikes me as strange. I wish I knew what the hell was going on, but I mean,
I guess Luther, and when the Catholic Church started losing all its power.
Well, that's a different thing because it didn't really have I don't know that it had a big art. Well, I guess it did have an artistic effect because there was a lot less of the gilded.
Book burning.
Well, no, I meant more the gilding and the artistic because even as an atheist, I have to admire the astounding contribution that religion has had to art. I mean, that's I would be stupid to say otherwise. It'd be lunacy to not look at the art people have created in the name of faith. It's astounding. It's amazing. Beautiful shit. So because let's face it, no one's really created anything really all that astounding in the name of atheism. It's not that kind of ideology. Unless you're Dean Esme, then you think it is, but that's another point altogether.
Well, I would argue that no one ever started anything in the name of atheism, because in a way atheism has had a huge influence on psychology and sociology. Unfortunately, it's overtaken by feminism and other such Marxist cultures, but they did have much influence.
I would say maybe like communism, and that's kind of sort of arguable.
Well, yeah, it's a religion of the state.
Yeah,
That's
so they
why
implemented
they broke other religions is because not because they're atheists, it's because there is only one faith. It is the system. The
I
state.
wouldn't
all
say, I
hail
wouldn't
the
say
system.
communism came from atheism, though. There are more links to Catholicism and communism than between communism and atheism. The only thing is that communism forces atheism because there is no God other than the state.
Yeah.
But the whole concept of communism is basically directly derived from Marxism, and he himself got it from Jesus Christ.
Yeah, and there used to be a very strong
Like,
connection.
how do you get Marxism from Jesus Christ? It seems kind of a leap.
Well, yeah, there's in Christian philosophy or even just in social contagion, I guess you could say, ideas of altruism and sacrifice for the greater good. All of which,
Yeah, but
right.
it was never like intended to be forced. You're supposed to do it of your own free will.
Well,
Like,
yes, but that's sometimes that people get this idea that you should do it because it's the greater good. Well, there used to be in the United States, in particular, there used to be a fairly strong connection between socialist movements and religious movements. That split happened. I don't remember exactly. It's a little fuzzy for me. I apologize, but that political parting of ways where the religious went more towards basically godless communities versus the Bible thumping conservatives. That split happened somewhere Roosevelt era, for reasons that I'm fuzzy on right now. I know why, but I don't remember it for some fucking reason. But
did you say Rose? That sounds like Rosie O'Donnell.
Oh, Roosevelt.
I'm triggered.
No, but the thing is, if you look at the teachings of Jesus Christ in the how do you call it, New Testament, if you compare those with Marxistic writing, you will see that there's quite a lot of comparison, an awful lot of comparison. Jesus Christ was pretty much an anti-capitalist himself. After all, his view on bankers, etc., was quite clear.
That's
Is
true.
it possible that Marxist ideas were developed from the Bible?
Well, maybe
I think.
I would say it would have to be like an extreme form taken to the max.
Oh yeah, I wouldn't hold Christianity responsible for it, but there's definite influences, and there was a long-standing Christian tradition of. You remember the God, the word it's escaping, but the saying, neither a borrower nor a lender be, is from there used to be a very essentially a Christian ban on being a banker or anything like that, which is why Jews tend to do it. Because Jews don't have any approbation against borrowing or lending, and there's still a strong cultural impulse to be against banking and the whole charging of interest, which is
there's a second reason why Jews are mostly bankers, because the Jews living in Europe were not allowed to do any trade. So there was only banking left because they weren't allowed to do any trade.
Well, I guess you could call banking a trade of money.
It is.
But it wasn't a guild. It wasn't a trade like carpeting is, or farming is, or blacksmithing is, or hoofsmithing is. Those are trades. Banking is, well, nowadays we would call it a trade, but back in the days it wasn't considered a trade.
Yeah, because back in the day, a trade was something that had what we would call today a union. Because guilds are kind of proto-unions, I guess you could say.
Mm-hmm.
Like a trade union, literally, in that case. So the trade unions wouldn't let the filthy Jews in, which was,
That's not nice.
Well, hey, I'm not the one that said it, but
I
did say it, but you know what I mean.
Muslims.
That's not what I you know what I mean. But basically, that was the attitude: was that the Jews weren't worthy. Well, they found whatever work they could. There's always work to be done that no right-thinking person wants to do. Well, the great part about the Jews was they would do the banking, and then the king could fuck them afterwards. It was fantastic. It's like, you're going to give me a loan, and then I'm not going to pay any interest, and when you want the interest back, we're just going to fucking kill you. It was amazing.
Yeah.
Well, it depends. Like, I guess if you're a Jewish person and you had enough power and wealth, you can have some influence over the king
No.
to not fuck your shit up.
But eventually, they usually the more if you got enough power to influence them, eventually someone would get the idea that maybe you were too dangerous and then kill you.
Yeah.
This is exactly what happened to the Knight Templars. They were also into a money system, and they loaned heavily to the King of France, and eventually the King of France couldn't pay them back, so he basically banished them, destroying the order at the same time. So no, Jews had no particular power. They might have had some money, and that money might have helped somewhat, but in no way were they going to be able to go against the politics and the rulers of the lands.
Yeah. I'm not saying they'd have that much power, but I mean, like, more than the regular person.
And how has this affected us as a country today?
Well, there's still this long-standing issue that people have with, bankers are inherently bad people. Greed is, having, greed and personal gain automatically makes you evil, when it's the love of money that, or basically avarice, the excessive love of money that is the root of all evil, supposedly, not money itself. That kind of thing.
I don't really love money. I just like it.
It's proven time and again, though. I mean, one of the reasons the American colonies fought for independence was because they wanted to get away from the English crown, and they wanted to get away from the English banking system. Then, pretty shortly after, they started their own banking system, which basically fucked them over. Then you've got the Federal Reserve, which at first didn't exist at all. And the funny thing about the Federal Reserve in America, well, there's one thing it isn't, and that's federal.
It's private.
It's private. And they are fucking up the country now, because America is basically forced to be in debt. They will never be able to go out of debt as long as they're under the clutches of the Federal Reserve, because the Federal Reserve is the only one that can make the dollar, and they lend it to the USA, and the USA has to pay a small interest on it. But if I lend you $100, and that's the only dollars you have, and you have to pay me $1 interest, you will never be able to pay me, because you only have $100.
Yep.
Banking is the root of all evil, but not every form of banking is.
Well, it's power that is the root of all evil. Money is just an end to that, means to that end. The same way guns and swords are.
Fair enough. Well, I would say money is a little bit more than guns and swords, because with money you can buy guns and swords.
Yeah, although if
And
you have a
guns and
sword,
swords
one
have
guy has a
value.
sword and the other guy only has money, pretty much you're going to have one guy with a sword and money. It's situational. In some situations, money is much better, and in some situations, arms are much better. But ultimately, it's kind of like on the macro scale, on the large scale, money is better. On the micro scale, swords are better.
Well, I think less stable places, guns are much better, and in more stable money.
No, because even the less stable places, the guns are on the side of money.
Sometimes, yeah.
Usually.
Yeah,
No.
usually. Well,
Exceptions
fair
to
enough.
that.
Yeah, usually they are. Because I mean,
if there are exceptions to
the
it,
guys
they
who carry the guns want to eat. So, yeah.
I was thinking like Africa, where everyone's fucking poor, but some people have more power because they can fucking shoot people.
Yeah.
There's that, yeah.
I'm sorry, mate, but in Africa, definitely not everyone is poor.
Well, no,
Well,
not everyone.
there's-
No.
I was thinking
There are
like,
specific
but not-
instances, yeah.
There's very few not poor people.
No, there's lots of not rich people, but there aren't. I mean, you've got some of the wealthiest people in Africa are black themselves, and they are usually the warlords, and they are
Yeah.
usually the ones that corrupt the system, and they're usually the ones that hire the people with guns. So the people with guns have more money than the people that do not have guns, and that kind of is a self-circulating. How do you call it? Circle. It makes the situation worse because the people with money and the guns take it away from the people without money, which makes the poor people poorer and the rich people richer, and therefore there is more of an incentive for people to pick up arms and try to start their own war bands.
So what's the solution?
More war?
I would say a wall and a few big bombs and everything inside the wall bomb it. Nah,
that sounds about right.
yeah, but that's
Just
not nice.
burn everything to the ground.
The real solution is one, stop selling arms to them. B, or two, stop taking wealth from them. And C, actually stop forcing the African economies to work in the way we want. I mean, if you look at places like Nigeria, Nigeria is a pretty rich country in minerals, but somehow the country itself isn't rich. There are other countries which are really, really poor, and instead of us creating a system where they can become richer, for example, by helping them in certain agricultural prospects, we tell them what they can't do.
Yeah.
And
I mean, if we were feeling megalomaniacal, I mean, if I were a supervillain, my solution to Africa would almost be the Hong Kong solution. You know.
Genocides?
No. The Hong Kong solution, the way the British ran Hong Kong, which was basically they kept order, and that's about it. The day-to-day life, trade, all that, those people could do pretty much whatever the hell they wanted, as long as they didn't cause a fuss, didn't violate the peace. The peace. They didn't really the British didn't fuck with them much.
no, as long as you
And
didn't.
those fuckers are wealthy as shit.
Yep,
Why don't we just do the Nazi solution, aka the final solution?
Nah,
Because
that
that's-
never works out. It's way too much work.
One, it's way too
It
much.
was until we had nukes.
It still
It's
is.
time to vote on the correct answer in this situation.
What was the question?
Will Modwayne's resolution be the one we will say would work? Would Red's solution be the one to be held on high? Or will Runefoot's extermination be the best?
1,
Decide
2, or
among
3 in the chat now.
Is there a chat? Is anybody in the chat? Honestly,
We'll just act like there is.
Choose your fate.
Pepridge Farm remembers. That's the name of the hangout. Lord Almighty.
Pepperidge
Oh,
Farm remembers this genocide.
I personally think the Hong Kong solution would be the one that worked, but it's the one that no one would let us do. You know.
Modwayne, could you agree with Red's solution?
I think we have more pressing issues in our home.
I can agree with any solution because it seems that any solution is better than what we're doing now. Whether it's the best solution or not, time will tell.
Maybe I should sell weapons to fucking Africans.
We have 2 for Red's solution. Runefoot, what is your selection?
Kill them.
Well,
Just a simple solution.
At least it's direct.
Redfoot's option wins.
Redfoot.
Redfoot.
Robot. You earn the privilege of the next question.
Oh, Lord. How do we get social justice warriors to stop fucking with our video games? That's what I want to know. How the fuck do we? Because I know it seems trivial, but that's what I want to. How do we get the grubby hands out? Because they really don't play this shit anyway. So why do we care what they think?
How do we get social justice out of our games?
Well, I would go one further. Why do we care what they say?
The problem is the developers seem to care, which is what pisses me off. I mean, otherwise I wouldn't give a shit, but they influence these people.
Well, propose 3 solutions and we'll see which is the best among them.
Get them all.
Okay.
Moderated solution is genocide.
I guess the only thing that's going to work is disdain and voting with our wallets. You know, got to stop buying this shit that's run by social justice weenies.
Well, they're not hugely influential anymore because, Gamergate kind of won. Kind
We'll
of,
see.
sort of, mostly.
Red advocates for the capitalist solution.
What a surprise! I hate to play to my stereotype, but yeah.
I think I'm gonna have to agree with Red.
Runefoot agrees with the capitalist solution.
I could have went with genocide, but I think capitalism's better.
Capitalistic tendencies have brought our people to the way we are today. Our technological advancements and all advancements in every field of study have been more and more improved. This has been paid for by the almighty dollar oft held by capitalistic beliefs.
How's Big Mother?
All hail the
I would
dollar.
agree that
All
the
hail
dollar.
Big Mother.
However, I think that it is possible that simply becoming the developers yourselves would solve the problem.
But I don't have the skills.
Skills can be learned.
But I don't want to. I want to cook things.
So, capitalism on Runefoot, capitalism on Red Robot. You may decide which one of you chooses to do the next topic.
My brain's starting to go to mush.
Uh,
Literally, it can be any topic.
Are peanuts nuts?
What's better, big boobies or small?
That's an arguable position.
Large or small breasts is now the topic.
Well, I like big
I am
boobies,
so
but
glad
I also
Pippi is
like
not
small
awake.
boobies.
What?
I like both.
Yeah, there's something to be said for either. Because I mean, there's something vaguely. I think that's the purpose, of course. There's something highly hypnotic about boobies in general, and more boobie means more movement, which causes more whoa. And cleavage is just magical. It makes ideas go away. It's amazing.
Yeah, you have a stressful day and you see some nice jugs and wiggle them. Now you're like, this is alright.
But on the other hand, little boobies are just almost inherently perky and happy to be there.
Yeah, I kind of like that.
Sort of delightfully, kind of, hi, how you doing?
What is the maximum size and minimum size of an acceptable breast range?
B.
Oh, well, I mean, maximum, I think. Well, oh God. See, here's the. Are we talking real or fake?
Triple D.
Preferably real.
Okay, because fake ones throw the whole thing quite a bit. Because even small fake boobies can look awful.
How do you get small? Who would do small fake boobies?
I've seen it. I mean, well, these are girls who the poor girls blessed with mere mosquito bites will not necessarily be dumb enough to get these ginormous balloons attached to their chest because those look awful and they know it. So they're smart. They just get small implants, which still look a little goofy, but they're okay.
I can't. I'm not sure if I could do the mosquito bites.
I could. Because here's the thing about mosquito bites, which is unusual, is that basically you can put the whole breast in your mouth, which is kind of fun, and then just run your tongue over everything, and it's fantastic, and they have a great time.
I don't know. I have a pretty big mouth. I can do maybe B, C.
Jesus Christ, man! What do you swallow steaks whole? God.
Well, there are no
Almost.
small
So
boobs. No.
the A cup is the agreed upon smallest.
Yeah, we'll go with A.
Wait, what did Modwin say?
Why do A's even have bras?
I said there's no motorboating in small boobs.
There's
Yeah,
true.
that's a downside.
anything under a B. Or
But-
a B or
Anything
smaller.
under a
It's
B.
possible. It's just hard.
We have one vote for anything under a B.
If we're judging women purely by fucking tits, but
Well, yeah, sure. I mean, that's this is not the whole value of a woman. We're just talking about what our. Personally, I would accept I'll accept boobies of any size. Up to it's the smaller, literally flat-chested women are fine because usually they have really nice nipples. But really big boobs, I think the upper limit might be if they're bigger than her head.
I don't know. I kind of like that.
Bigger
Well,
than her head?
Yeah.
Each one. If each one is bigger than her head,
Yeah.
that might be a bit much.
I think double D, and then we go down to B and maybe A.
Cause no, I've seen girls with boobs bigger than their head, and these were like 2F something.
Oh my God, F's.
God, yeah, she had huge knockers.
I want to play with
So
F's.
to agree, double D is the kicker.
Yeah,
In
after
this
that,
situation.
a great deal of it becomes the breast relative. You get a whole lot of shape questions at that point.
Well, yeah. After that, I just want to look at them. And
Okay.
I was like, wow,
So
that's a
double
miracle
D
of existence.
is the maximum breast size, and A is the minimum breast size.
I guess I can
Okay.
take a larger range than that, but that's me.
Why is it
Except-
Mod not talking?
Modwin?
I have my
Modwin.
microphone turned off because my little one might be wailing from time to time. So when I want to
Okay.
turn my mic
No
on,
problem.
I'm still here.
It's fine.
I'm talking when I have something to say. Women's breasts are not usually a topic I care to talk about a lot. I know. Women seem to think men always talk about breasts, but I don't care.
Yeah, we
Modwin.
normally don't talk about this. I just figured, what the hell? Why not?
What is?
'Cause-
Would you
Mod
rather
Wayne.
burn alive or freeze to death?
Freeze to death.
Freeze
Yeah,
to
freeze
death.
to death.
What's the question?
Would you rather burn alive or freeze to death?
No. Orange called my name out a few times, so I'm wondering why.
Oh,
That-
it's your turn to come up with a question.
It's my turn to come up with a question. I have no clue. Well, okay, let's go back to Islam. We started somewhere with Islam. Let's go back to Islam. And why? Because this is something people will say this is something that can purvey why Islam is all of peace. And I'm going to read you two surahs, or maybe, I'm going to read you two surahs, and then I'm going to read you the third one. And the first two are going to be this. And to say, this is the first one, sorry. Can I or shouldn't I?
Why is Islam the religion of peace?
Well, a lot of people seem to think it is, and a lot of people use these next two surahs to explain why they are peaceful. But I'm going to read the third surah as well. So I'm going to start with the first two. And to say to those who do not believe, work according to your position. Indeed, we are working. The second surah, and wait. Indeed, we are waiting. So a lot of Muslims say, see, this is why we are peaceful, because we're not doing anything. We're just working and we're waiting. But this is the third surah. The first one was 11.121. The second one was 11.122. And this is 11.123. And to Allah belong the unseen aspects of the heaven and earth, and to Him will be returned the matter, all of it. So worship Him and rely upon Him. And your Lord is not unaware of which you do. Now the funny thing is, most Muslims that will use the first two surahs to say, see, we're peaceful, will always leave out the third surah. Because, and your Lord is not unaware of which you do. Allah is aware of what you do. But in other places in the Quran, Allah tells you to fight the kuffar. So, and wait, indeed we are waiting, is not an option. Yet they keep telling this shit. So how far are we going to let them remind us that they are a good religion by lying to us what the Quran says?
Well, they're supposed to lie to further Islam.
Do you believe that the lies in the Quran disprove its existence, or at the very least that its tenets are provided under peaceful intentions?
I think it's fucking wrong.
I'm not going to say there are lies in the Quran. Well, I
Yeah,
could say there are lies in the Quran, but clearly the problem is not that there are lies in the Quran. It's that the Quran is basically giving them place to pretend a different reality.
By contradicting itself every half a second?
No, not so much by contradicting itself, but by giving the option of reading only half of it. For example, I just now gave you 3 surahs. The first 2 surahs are often used as an explanation, and they always leave out the third surah when they do. But the third surah basically says you have to do what Allah commands you to do. Because I'm looking at you. And that last surah is often not used. Why? Because then, yeah, I mean, the first 2 surahs says we're nice, we're waiting, and we're not doing anything bad. But the last command basically said you should do what I tell you, and what I tell you to do is pretty much bad.
And I would, maybe as a cynical human being, assume that the Quran, as I understand it, there are 2 things about it that might be relevant. One is that, as I understand it, there are chronologically there is somewhere in there a commandment that says, hey, anything when in doubt, when in conflict, the newest stuff is canon. But they often quote the older stuff from more peaceful periods. But even then,
No, I thought the older stuff was more violent, and
Nope, the new stuff is more violent. The Mecca stuff is the peaceful stuff. The Medina stuff is the violent stuff.
Oh yeah, I switched that.
And
yeah,
the other
the new stuff's the violent.
Yeah, and the other is much less transparently than, say, the Bible was assembled at some point. Because at some point, I forget, and I'm sure Orange can quote this better than I can. There was a point in when they assembled the Bible as we know it from assorted Christian and pre-Christian texts and said, okay, this is the final word, which gives quite a lot of, well, basically shoots some holes in the idea that the book itself, as assembled, beginning to end, is the people.
The same thing with the Quran.
Well, right, and that's kind of what I was getting to with the Quran. They're much less transparent about this fact, that it was assembled well after the fact, and in fact, much of it was almost certainly written well after Muhammad was dead.
Yeah, it's because nothing was written down of what he said until the people who knew him were dying of old age. And then they all gathered together and fucking wrote down the Quran. That's my understanding.
Same here. That's the general understanding that I've gotten is that it was assembled.
Is
at some
the
point.
Quran reliable?
No.
And I would say just because it was made by humans, if for no other reason, you can come up with any other excuse that you want.
Nah, they had some rules on how it was put together.
Oh yeah, but I'm just saying humans make boo-boos, so it's going to have flaws.
The worst part of the Quran is not so much the flaws. The worst part of the Quran is its intention. It's not like the Bible or like the Torah. It is a political manifesto to expand.
This is true. It is very different.
I don't doubt the accuracy of really what was written down to what Muhammad said. Really.
It's fine as it goes. It doesn't matter whether he really said it or not.
Yeah,
It's
it's
the
what they
contents that
believe.
matter.
It's the followers that really matter.
Yeah, and that's the other thing is even if it was a peaceful book, it's kind of like if you took the Bible literally, a lot of a lot of Christians are very lazy about it, and I'm glad because otherwise they'd be ginormous assholes.
Well, you either go on witch hunts or you're in rags and giving people money. So either way.
Yeah. And
Dean Emsry.
What?
Dean Emsry.
He's
Esme.
a DM. Did you do? Fucking Alaskan.
Dean Emsry.
Esme.
Whatever.
Fucking autism.
Fucking pleb is what he is.
Yeah, that is what
Yeah, by the
Orange
way,
is.
if you didn't know, Orange is fucking high.
He is?
Yes.
What are we doing here?
I do not say that I am, but I do not say that I am not.
You said you were in the fucking Skype chat, dude. You're high as a kite. It's his medication. It does this to
I
him.
remember when I was high. I would always
Dorks.
Anyway, moving on. Dean Emsry. Anything to say about him?
Yeah. I used to. This is. Let's see here. Well, 10 years ago at least. Back when. What we do on YouTube now was much more done in text by blogging was much more of a big thing back then. I used to do that in a blog that will not be named, but I used to interact with Dean Esme fairly often on his blog, Dean's World, and I want to say he was much more reasonable then, but he was still. I argued with him occasionally. The longest argument I ever had with him was a discussion about the proper preparation of chili.
That is an important
intense
subject.
discussion, historical and culinary history was delved into for the sake of is chili with tomatoes correct or not? I argued that it was, in as much as meat is, but he argued that it was not, and I have to say that it's entirely possible that if we go far enough back, we may both be wrong, because chili spiced beans was the primary cowboy chow at the time, not necessarily the meat or the tomatoes, but they did eat a lot of tomatoes.
Well, yeah.
Canned tomatoes were very popular because the dust, the trail dust was very alkali. It was very acidic, so it was a good cure for an alkali, dusty mouth. So they would often eat them out of the can, as weird as that sounds.
Just to get their...
Isn't it hard to get them out of the can back then?
Your lips all
so much.
slicked
They
up.
were smarter than they appeared.
I thought they had to shoot the fucking cans to get them open.
No.
Originally.
No. Action.
Because the can opener wasn't invented with the can, it was invented a while after.
Well, you can use other things to open cans.
I think it was primarily tools and guns.
Yeah, but yeah, they were smart people. They
would shoot the fucking can.
Yeah, they wouldn't shoot the can. That was a waste of bullets for one thing.
No, they did sometimes.
Well, yeah, I'm sure they did, but I mean sometimes. But Dean,
when they're getting frustrated and desperate, just fucking shot the thing.
To kind of give you another sort of rundown of Dean's weirdness, back when I was part of Dean's World roughly when like he and his wife eventually separated, and I was kind of there around that time for that. Towards the end of my blogging days was when that kind of thing went down, and it was very strange. God, that gives me flashbacks to other bloggers and weirdos that I used to know.
Other weirdos? We're the only weirdos you need.
Well, I mean, the YouTube weirdos are different a little bit. They tend to be a little less literate, and I don't mean.
Excuse me, I am a high-class individual.
Well, you have to remember when what you're doing, your interaction is writing, then you do a lot more of it and a lot more reading.
Yeah.
YouTubers don't need to be as literate, and I don't mean that. I mean in the sense they tend to process a lot of their information from other media than reading it. They'll watch videos to get information. There's nothing wrong with that. And I'm not saying they're less informed. They just do it differently.
I'm a blogger that turns and does fucking videos.
Yeah, I mean, yes, there's a big difference. You have consumers and producers.
Mm-hmm.
The ones that do make videos are informed, or at least to a certain extent, because otherwise their movies would be very short, I assume.
Yeah.
So, yes, there are consumers of videos that do not do any other form of information gathering, then yes. But I tend to think that the people who make movies do their research.
We try to, yeah, I think. I mean, some people just shitpost, and that's fine, but, you know,
Yeah,
ironically, I used to do more like, informative videos, but no one seemed to be all that interested. I get a lot more response from comedy, so, you know, and I enjoy that, so I do what I do what amuses me and my audience. Whereas, you know, navel-gazing about philosophy or economics seems to only amuse me.
I thought your videos were pretty nice, but
but I'm not saying nobody liked them. I'm just saying they didn't resonate well because
Most
people are fucking
stupid.
What?
Right?
nothing.
I honestly didn't.
I didn't say anything.
I was confused.
I didn't call everyone stupid.
I don't know what's going on. Why are we whispering?
But in all fairness, though, Red Robot, I don't think you have to worry that much. I mean, out of the people here, I think you have the biggest channel.
Well, yeah, I don't mean in like channel size. I mean in the and also I guess you could say most of my channel growth is when I started doing funnier stuff. You know.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I should try that too.
I should go back to doing that.
Well, and I guess I have a voice for comedy, you know, whereas, you know, for articulate discussion, not so much.
Yeah, I would think that articulate discussion is mostly hinged on the arguments and not on the voice.
Yeah, I have a hard time articulating my views.
Well, here's the thing. I have noticed that that delivery still matters because, well, let me put it this way. Like, if we were talking about text, if I had something was written in 8-point font in Times New Herald, you know, in this
Roman.
Just compact, single-spaced. Yeah, the content might be great, but if it's hard to read, no one will get through the first couple of paragraphs. On the other hand, if it's written in a nice, comfortable 10-point font with something some diagrams and some pictures, delivery matters, I think. But you're right. If the delivery can be beautiful, if the content sucks, nobody cares. But you know that. So you're right. But I think at least for what maybe I just need to get better at it. You know, I need to get good scrub. So I'm still learning.
I shouldn't criticize you too much, considering your channel is at least 10 times bigger than mine. I mean, you're doing something right. Then again, it wasn't really a criticism anyway. So.
Well, no, feedback. I call it that. I mean, and you're right. I only have 1,000 subs. I'm still nobody on YouTube, but
yeah,
Better than me.
Nobody than I.
I'm just saying the difference between you and I is large on that scale. But if we get to the scale, somebody like between me and Sargon, we're all scrubs, and that's fine. I'm just saying. I'm still. Hopefully, I'm getting better at it. So maybe I'll get better at making a video about something, articulate, entertaining. Once I get that figured out, I might be able to do it again.
Yeah, I could do that, but I want more views so I can get more money and then I can increase in quality.
Well, I hate to say it, the quality probably comes first.
Yep.
No, I'm kind of running on an ancient thing and I have no money, so.
Yeah,
Catch-22.
Situation. My computer's 3 years old and it was a piece of junk when I got it. So.
Yeah, but the quality is
only 3. Mine's 8.
quality isn't made by the material; it's made by the delivery. So yeah, there is that. And in all fairness, if I look at what I do myself, most of my movies are on feminism and Black Lives Matter and bullshit like that. And well, fair is only fair, but that's a fringe market.
True.
And there are
I should do gaming videos.
And the other thing is practice. That seems to have helped me a lot. Because if you go watch any of my early stuff compared to now, even when it's on the same fucking topic, oh god, I'm sometimes tempted to get rid of the old stuff just because it's embarrassing. But it is what it is.
It is what it is.
So, I mean, just another thing is to look at the number of subscribers I have versus how many videos I have. I have almost 400 videos. I put in a lot of practice.
Yeah.
I don't know if that helps anybody else, but that's
I have
nothing else. I keep trying.
Roughly 1 subscriber per video, so seems that you outscore me on that one.
Well, I have been in situations where I've had more videos than I've had subscribers.
Yeah.
I have 131 subscribers and like 8 videos.
Yeah.
It is time to move to a new topic.
I think I had something like 5 minutes ago.
How about how long have we been doing this?
We have been at this for
A little more than an hour?
An hour and 3 minutes.
I think I need a break and probably to go do some maintenance. So maybe closing topics.
Closing topics.
I would like to know more about the history of Islam, because let's face it, even if I don't like it, having some idea of what I'm dealing with, because I'm familiar with Christianity to some extent. I live in a Christian nation, probably the most Christian nation still on existence in the United States, because Europe is pretty secular, kinda.
Luckily, yes.
I can help you with that history of Islam.
That would be cool. See, there's
I like history.
But
well, maybe you should do some history videos. People like those.
my
I
darling
think it would
wife
be dry.
to make movies on Islam, to be honest. But what do you want to know?
Well, no, just that's something I'm just as a topic I'm looking forward to finding out more about, just the history of how it got here, because it's a lot of it is, that middle period just before it took this weird turn to very insular, and again when Muhammad's face disappeared from their art, that from the beginning to there is what I'm kind of fuzzy on, and that's the part I mentioned.
Yeah, there was something, I think it was like a war or something, I can't remember exactly what happened about that time.
There was the Shia and Sunni divide, to be honest.
Yeah.
And that's still going on.
Mm-hmm.
But even before that, there's a difference between the Mecca and the Medina part, which is probably more interesting than the disallowing of his face. During the Mecca part, he was, vastly outnumbered. He didn't have a lot of followers. He didn't get a lot of grounds, and people didn't really care much about him. And that's
he was thrown out.
Yeah, that's why he left Mecca and went to Medina. And in Medina, he found people willing to listen to him and willing to follow him. And once he had enough followers, he went back. After he took over Medina, he went back to Mecca. And at first, he made a peace covenant with Mecca, which would last for 10 years, and he broke after 3. That's kind of where the whole concept of you do not have to give your word, and if you do give your word, you don't have to keep it, comes from.
I was watching an older History Channel video on this, and I think it was pretty fucking biased in favor of Islam.
Well,
because it was like, all he did was just go back, and he was attacked, and when when he came back, and then there was a war, and it was like, that's not exactly what happened.
No, it's exactly not what happened. He went back to wage war, and at first he didn't win, so he stopped fighting in Mecca and made a peace covenant with them. And then when he was finally powerful enough, he broke that covenant and destroyed Mecca.
Isn't that where part of the thing comes from, where you're supposed to wait until you're powerful enough
Yep.
to conquer your enemy?
Yep, that's one of the things. I mean, I love, for example, Saladin. Saladin is one of the great Muslim generals from history. But where I do believe that he did, well, he was a general, so he did a lot of war and whatnot. One of the things I do like about him is that people always talked, well, you have to talk peace. Why don't you talk peace? Because you talk peace when you need peace. If I need you to give me a breathing room, I ask you for peace. But if I outnumber you, if I have destroyed you, there will be no peace. There will only be destruction. I'm paraphrasing. I can't find the true quote really fast. But that's the whole thing about Islam. I mean, there is no such thing as continuity. If it's in my favor, we do it. If it's in your favor, fuck you.
It's what you might call a medieval realpolitik, I suppose.
No, because even in medieval lands, in Europe, for example, a truce was a truce. And those that broke a truce were condemned by the other people. I mean, a man is still as good as his word. In the Western world, this is still a primary indicating of worth. As I said, a man is only as good as his worth.
Mm-hmm.
In Islam, breaking your word is okay. I mean, Muhammad did it. And he is the perfect man. And he did it, therefore we can do it. This is, for example, why, who was it? The guy from the PLO, Yasser Arafat, he made the Oslo Agreement. And a lot of Arab countries fell over him for making the agreement when Arafat only said, well, remember Mecca. Remember Muhammad. I'm giving my word now, but as soon as the situation changes, fuck him.
Yep.
Yeah, that's why they're breeding like fucking rabbits.
And that's that what I meant by the realpolitik is the basically the practicality over honor, because that's pretty much what we're looking at. And the Arafat, I mean, I've been alive long enough to remember when he was alive and he was in the news frequently, and he is probably in the top 10 of greatest scumbags who ever lived. And that's saying something, because there's a long contest for scumbags. But this asshole, he's amazing. He was amazing, and how much what I was talking about earlier with the sort of academic or hard left fascination with anyone who's anti-Western. They loved this asshole for some reason. They would almost get upset if anyone said anything bad about him. It's like, are you fucking nuts? He kills people for political gain, and I don't mean it in just a trivial fashion.
No, but that's the thing, though, because we still look at the situation with our Western eyes. So we see him giving his word, and when someone gives us their word, we expect them to keep it because that's how we are raised. So yes, he did everything good because he gave his word and he promised he would do well and blah 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 blah. But he only gave us his word, and a word of a Muslim, unfortunately, means very little to a non-Muslim.
Right. Well, that's what I was talking about. I mean, was this tendency of the educated left to just forgive that over and over again, painting. Now, I'm not saying on this breath that Israel is perfect, but basically just labeling which one of these two is the bad guy. Because
both-ish, somewhat.
Yeah.
I would think objectively, if I had to pick one, it would be an easy choice of which one.
I can understand Gaza and the Gaza Strip, Palestine, their point of view from it, because it seems like they're getting invaded because all these Jews just fucking pop up in their lands.
Yeah, it's not that it isn't that it seems that they're getting invaded. They are getting invaded, and that's the whole problem. So the conflict in Israel is not the fault of Palestine. It's not the fault of the Jews, but neither of them are faultless.
Yeah.
But I mean, but yes, but what my larger point is, of the two, which one is relatively speaking the good guy? It's sure as hell not the Palestinians or their backers.
I'm sorry, Red, but you're making a very simple.
Well, yeah, I'm aware that I'm simplifying. I said, comparatively speaking.
There is no comparatively speaking, because, I mean, we're talking.
Final point.
We're talking about stick and stones against high hardware from the military. There is no comparison point. They're both not good.
No, see, taking the Palestinians on their own as though they were the only thing there is what they want us to do. But yeah, that could be hours. Yeah, we should probably stop here. That's hours of discussion.
I was enjoying myself.
Yeah, but I gotta pee something awful.
We'll just pee and do this.
No, I also it's late. I post work. I'm tired, so. He's fresh. I'm tired. That's not good.
Super fresh.
Well, I just did wake up. Fair is fair.
It's fucking midnight or something. I don't know.
All right. Well, I've had a great time. I thought that was more fun than American
2 a.m.
What?
The current time is 1:42 a.m.
No, it's not.
No,
In
it's not.
Kansas it is.
It's 10:42 p.m.
Then you're just being a pussy, Rune.
Shut up, you fucking inferior.
All right. Well, you guys have fun. I'm good.
Good night, Red.
Thanks for having me on, guys, and thank you, Red, for coming. It was good fun talking to you.
Have fun.
Good night, Monwayne.
Well, my day is starting. I have to do the baby and all that. You know how it goes.
I just heard "do the baby."
Do the baby.
That means in his diaper.
Yeah.
Come on. Anyway, see you guys later. Thanks for having me. And yeah, I'm sorry to bolt as well like this, but
And it's okay, Mon. You're fine.
thank you, mate. Be good.
Goodbye, faggots.
Hey, Nazi bullshit.
Turn it off. Turn it off.
Fucking hang on. Man, wait. Nah, there you go, yourself.
Not that. I meant the live.
Yeah, but do that, huh? And stop the broadcast.